It has been 2 years since Russia-Ukraine war has been going full-fledged, killing hundreds of thousands of people on both the sides and using millions of tons of ammunition from both the sides. We have seen Russia using all its weapons and Ukraine being backed by NATO and USA. They have been sustaining this war for 2 years despite so many economic sanctions against Russia and so much of misery that the people in Ukraine have suffered, including being displaced from their homeland and being forced to live as refugee in several neighboring countries. But at one point in this 2 year long war, there was this juncture where it seemed that the catastrophe of this slow moving war could totally become very massive, and nuclear weapon, a tactical nuclear weapon was something that probably Russia was deliberating to use. And at this point, US government officials were very concerned, so much so that they did try to urge Indian officials in Delhi and Beijing to pursue this case that Russia should not use such tactical weapons, which would entail a totally off the rail scenario for this war. And in some cases, Indian officials or Indian government officials did try to talk it out to Moscow that no such weapons, no nuclear weapons, be it tactical, strategic, or even small scale, should be used against the war in Russia, in Ukraine. How much of these persuasion help to scale down or to diffuse the tension, that remains unclear. But U.S. officials, on the one of the article that has been published on CNN News, has says that U.S. officials were very concerned and that this could totally go out of control, and Biden administration was very keen on engaging with Beijing, not a very good ally of USA at that point, and also India, which US thinks that had some sphere of influence over Moscow, to engage with them and to convince that using any such nuclear options could become totally disastrous and catastrophic. We know that 80 years ago, almost 80 years ago, USA had used atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II, which many believes in USA that resulted in ceasefire, or in a way ending the World War II. But many also argued that that could not have been the only option to end this war, because the two bombs killed thousands of people in both the cities and practically demolished and leveled down the city, to which it took decades for Japan to recover both economically, socially, and many of the impacts of those nuclear bombs are still being seen in the people of those areas. So, using a nuclear weapon or using any nuclear arsenal is something that the world has been very apprehensive for a very long time, that no scenario in any war or any conflict should allow use of nuclear weapon. Many countries around the world are now having these weapons, including India, but many of them have said that they are not going to use it in terms of any conflict or any war. But if Russian sides are being cornered in a way that they are left with no choice but to use their most lethal weapon, will Russia use it? That was going on in the mind of US officials when, during the 6 7 months into the war, they tried to assess the intelligence reports coming from Russia, that Russia was trying to use all its lethal weapon, and probably the nuclear weapon was also on the table. And that is when US officials got jitters and they got engaged with officials in Beijing and New Delhi to calm down the tension and to give some good sense to the Russian side that they should not go ahead with using this nuclear weapon. That would mean a totally disastrous scenario, a war that will be full scale, and a war that will have so much of repercussions that probably it will not be limited in that region, its impact or its conflict, and it will probably spill over across the world, and probably a scenario where most of the countries around the world could be seen engaging in some way or other with each other in a conflicting scenario.